ThoughtSource Consulting presents the Due Diligence Show. And now, from the Deal Room, please welcome your hosts, Andrew Baziski, Adam Jarks, and Luke Silcock.
Well, welcome back to the Deal Room. We've dealt with the product, we've dealt with the tech. Let's deal with the people. What have we got to say about the org?
Well, the people and organisational factors are critical to look at as part of tech due diligence. We're looking at how the organisation is set up, how it runs, what makes it tick, and we're assessing that. Obviously, it's only got its history, but we're also trying to project forward. How do these risk factors play out for the acquirer? Is this a team that's going to be able to get on with the rest of your company? Are they going to be able to cope with the process disciplines that you might require? And can they succeed? And we're going to be looking at, are the key contributors that are identified through the software engineering review that Andrew talked about before?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is one of the interesting things about the technology due diligence. We tend to be one of the few teams that actually goes out and spends a lot of time with the people instead of purely focusing on what's going on in data rooms. So, I mean, we get to talk to the people, get to know them, and in combination with the quantitative analysis we get through things like contributor history, we're able to work out who the true key people are in the organisation. And that may or may not actually line up with what you think. You may have someone who's a really the key developer or engineer or brains trust behind the company, but they may not be a very talkative person. So if you're purely focused on PowerPoints and who gives the best presentations, they're not going to pop up.
And then if you have product development goals, they might land on the shoulders of this one individual who's identified, and they're going to need to make a personal transition as they come across as part of the transaction. You might be able to get a targeted retention bonus.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing who the key people are also lets you work out how you want to do those retentions with a lot more precision than if you just have a blanket, well, we're going to give the team X. This way you can really target on who's important and then give, especially if budgets are tight, you can really focus it that way. Also, by talking to people, this is a pretty big life event for these key people. So you want to make sure, are they actually willing to go along, because that's going to affect the dynamics of how successful this deal's going to be. You're asking this person to maybe move halfway across town. Are you asking them to move halfway across the world? Are they going to be happy with this? This is all the sort of stuff you need to formulate as you're actually working through your deal.
And one of the things I find when interviewing and having presentations delivered, when there's passion, I love gauging the engagement levels and the passion, particularly when we say talking through the customer support organisation. Who are the customers? Do they care about them? How do they respond to incidents and issues that have been raised by the customer, and how do they get the product updates out there? Such small matters, but when they're being communicated in the process of a diligence, it can be really insightful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And bringing all of these together, like the word that clumps it all together is culture. Right? You want to make sure that you've got a culture that's compatible with your company, and this is a good way to help check that out and whether these are going to mesh together, because you are going to be the one company, so you need to know all of these things.
Now, before we move on, what about services? Because sometimes it's not just about the tech, not just about the product, but the company is delivering services as well.
Yeah, I mean, people then is magnified even more while you may be delivering technology-oriented services. If you're a services organisation, the people are the company. So even everything we've just said applies even more so to a services organisation.
To find out all about the M&A services that the team at ThoughtSource offer, head over to our website at www.thoughtsourceconsulting.com.
One of the parts of advice that we give to our clients is around integrating teams and companies into theirs and how the organisation should fit. I think that's an important thing, because a lot of the time there will be a technology organisation that may end up needing to be split a little bit, whether it's an R&D function versus a support versus a custom engineering. All of those sorts of things then need to get moved into a parent company that may have a different layout, and that needs to be assessed. And really, back to your go to green, how can we what expense is there, and what is the remediation that's required, comes down to how should this team actually be should be built out. How can they plan for the next year or two? And the fact that they're probably going to need to spend more money on people than they have in the past.
One good point we should talk about is how to gather the people data. And often it's not the same as the source code, which is considered really proprietary information, but information about the employees is closely held. So under confidence...
Why is that, Luke?
Well, you've got the names and details of all of the key folks that have contributed. And we handle this sensitively. We find out where have they contributed, how long they've been with the company, and what we're trying to gauge is, can these people continue to contribute in these ways? So we then factor it in. They might have made it a certain way, but are they going to make it that next step? And this is a bit of ThoughtSource jargon, the total cost of acquisition. So when we're trying to calculate the total cost of acquisition, we're trying to work out where are extra roles needed and what are the total costs that need to be factored in alongside the purchase price for the company to make it a success.
So is this almost like we're going back to our house analogy, you've gone and bought yourself a house, but you need to spend all this money on renovations to make it livable?
Yeah.
Part of the interesting work that we get to do when we speak to people over, whether it's web conferencing or in person, well, it used to be in person, before COVID came along and changed things around, is we meet a lot of the folks that are doing the work, that are running teams, that are working within teams, that are some of the stars, as you mentioned, that have been big contributors to the product, and we can give a really good assessment of the personalities of those folks as well, because we meet with them, we work with them, and to be honest, sometimes that becomes a pro or a con, and sometimes it can become a remediation issue where, there might be a team, and we've seen this before, where it's been a large R&D organisation, several teams split up, and one of the teams has been kept separate because they're totally, just hard to work with. That's the sort of stuff that we need to also bring to the surface.
There are the cultural factors, the organisational DNA, but then there's this sensitive topic of EOL, or the end of life of the existing product. So this is the company that's being acquired. What happens to their existing products and what happens to their customers? Do they need to be disrupted? What might that happen? What might that do to revenue? And what might it do to morale? So if the company in its growth stage has basically sold these clients on a promise, they'll feel honour bound to keep those customers over time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reality that can go a couple of different directions. I mean, sometimes a company is acquired based on the fact that it is a floundering product and will get absorbed as a technology, and that's sort of an understanding. But a lot of the time, I'd say more the majority of the time, is there is a plan put forward where that existing team can be brought in, cross-pollination of ideas, of the IP. There'll be a very structured EOL, end-of-life process that's put in place to wind down customers off a platform and usually bring them up on a replacement platform, which is the now more dominant buyer's platform, where they're supported. Typically messaging is done around the areas of support, being a global organisation, very strong.
Yep.
In comparison to perhaps what they've experienced in the past. Well, with that, there's another episode done from the Deal Room. We'll see you real soon.
The Due Diligence Show is proudly created by the team at ThoughtSource Consulting, where we bring our years of deep experience in technology M&A transactions from around the world. To find out more about how we can help you, visit the website at www.thoughtsourceconsulting.com.